Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today you're going to see me in the next couple videos probably look the exact same because I am about to leave for a trip to Florida, and so therefore I will not be able to do videos live. So I am of course going to be missing any live breaking news, but there are a couple of ideas, a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about beforehand anyway. One of them being of course Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, I know we're so sick and tired of Rotten Tomatoes, but don't worry guys, instead of talking about that other movie, at least at first, I'm going to be talking about something else a little bit differently because I still think that it shows overall the point that I'm trying to make, which is that the Rotten Tomatoes system is a terrible system. It is a terrible system that really does give more credence to politically motivated films, movies with political subtext, you could say. And some people are saying, oh, but Us was a great film. You know, what are you talking about? I haven't seen Us yet. I want to go see it. I'm probably going to try and go see it either this weekend when I get back, or potentially next week as well, because I really do like Jordan Peele. Get Out was one of the best films of last year. I own Get Out on Blu-ray. It's a great film. However, I don't think anyone who was living under a rock, at least, or who wasn't living under a rock, would not know that that movie was being talked about nonstop because of the political subtext and what it says about African-American culture versus white culture and all these other things. But to me, I think those things are secondary. And that's why I love Jordan Peele as a director and as a writer, too, because what he's able to do is he's able to tell a really good story that mainstream audiences can like and say, oh, this is really creepy, or oh, this is really, interesting and it's just very well done. While other people, the snooty, the critics of the world, can say, oh my gosh, the political subtext is so rich. It seriously feels like they, like they get very excited whenever there is any type of political subtext or even overt political subtext in any film, which is probably why they protected Captain Marvel so much. But we're talking about Us right now as of today. So it says, critic consensus with Jordan Peele's second inventive, ambitious horror film. We have seen how to beat a sophomore jinx, and it is Us. So, critics' consensus is actually on point for once, seeing that most critics do like this film. It's got 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. But this is exactly why you see, and this is the reason why I think that it's important for anyone that still uses Rotten Tomatoes as a metric. I know there's many people who have given that up, and I'm going to talk about an alternative that I'm slowly building over time. Don't worry, it's not a finished product yet, but I think it does have some pretty good implications to it. I know that some people still go back here to say, oh, it's certified fresh, 95%, etc. But these numbers here, 95%, 70%, are total and utter crap. They are total and utter crap, and they really do showcase why this system is broken. Because 95% does not mean that, oh my god, this is the greatest movie of all time. All of that means is that when the critics, who are Tomato Meter approved, release their reviews for Rotten Tomatoes to use on their website, they had a choice. In their review, when they were posting it, some critics, some people decide, oh, I'm going to do a rating out of 5, out of 10, give a grade. And so Rotten Tomatoes says, oh, well, we can't possibly think of another system to make it fair, to make the scores just make sense across the board. No, instead what we'll do is we'll say, if the critic thinks it's a fresh movie, they'll click on the fresh button. And if they don't think it's a fresh movie, they can click on the rotten button. Because that could never ever be something that could ever be used or could never be, could ever be corrupted by anything, because we've already shown this in previous films. One movie that came out just a couple weeks ago about how people were giving 2s out of 4s or 2.5s out of 5s and were giving it a fresh rating when in the past they've given it a rotten rating. It's a very inconsistent system because basically it gives it up to the critic. Basically, depending on the movie, the critic can say, okay, well, I'm going to be honest in my review, and if you go to my blog, if you go to the website that I write for, oh, you'll see that I'm upholding the objective standard of news in today's world. That's why you should trust Uproxx and the Washington Post and the New York Times, because we are the only bastions of truth left. Don't trust those crazy YouTubers who make things up on a daily basis. Well, most of us don't. Most of us stay grounded in reality and love to just showcase that, and also just like to, show everybody why you're just so full of crap. But this number, as I said, is not a consistent number. It's not an accurate number. 95%, 70%, even the audience rating is not. Now, how can you know this? Okay, well, there's this little question mark button that most people don't actually look at. It says right here, Tomato Meter, the percentage of approved Tomato Meter critics who have given this movie a positive review. Now, that's very misleading because it means that the critic has said the review is positive. Even if they've been extremely middle of the road, even if they've been 50-50 with it, they get to decide. The critics get to decide whether or not their review is fresh or not. Audience score is also very deceptive because you look, oh, 70%, that's a pretty good score right now. Oh, wait, that's the percentage of users who have rated this movie at 3.5 stars or higher, meaning 70% of the 76 trombones at the big parade of the actual users, sorry. guys who've been watching my channel for a while know that I love musical theater, and so it just was a perfect moment for me. But anyway, 70%, it just means that of that 76, gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars or higher. That doesn't actually say what the audiences actually felt about, which again, why this is a broken system. Now, when you click on this little tab here, the little more info tab, ooh, wait a minute, you get a little bit more context. So from this one, you see that the average rating is an 8.03 out of 10, which is about an 80%. Now, some people are going to point out trying to say, oh, you can't treat that as, the grading system for schooling because it doesn't work that way because that technically is a C, at least where I am. So no, this is not a C movie. This just means that it's a solid film. And, in the grand scheme of things, you are right. I mean, especially when you look back and see other films, for example, Captain Marvel, which is in the 60s. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty accurate statement that this is probably a pretty solid movie overall. But again, 8.3 out of 10. 80% does not look nearly as good as 95%. See, if you just looked at this number, you would think, oh my god, this is one of the greatest movies of all time. But when you dig deeper into the numbers, you realize, oh no, there's actually, so it's good. Obviously, the movie is well done, but it doesn't really tell us a whole lot about the overall feel of it. Again, this number right here is broken. That 70% looks very, very high, but when you compare it to a 3.9 out of 5, you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is actually an interesting case, an interesting statistic, because you actually find that the average rating system is actually higher than that percentage, which is actually very rare. Oftentimes you see it happen where it's flip-flopped. Either way, it's a broken system. Either way, it does not really show how people are feeling. It really just, again, gives you this fake number that everyone loves to go to, that everyone trusts in and says, oh, that's 95% approved around Tomatoes. Gloria Bell, 94%. Us, 95%. Cruel Intentions, 52%. Don't go see the re-release of Cruel Intentions in theater. It's a re-release, guys, so it's not a remake. Triple Threat, 72%. It's not certified fresh yet, not according to us, but Captain Marvel is a certified fresh movie. Even though when you look deeper into the numbers, as I just pointed out, you have a 6.8 out of 10 for Captain Marvel, with a 2.8 out of 5 at 62%. So even though the score is a rotten score, because of their little algorithm and the way that they've been deleting reviews and everything like that, they've been able to say, oh no, look, you see, we got the upright popcorn here because we've been able to fix the system for you. It's a broken system. No matter which way you look at it, whether you're looking at Captain Marvel, you're looking at Us, you're looking at any other movie, it always breaks down this way, where the average ratings are not the same. Now, some people say, oh, well, this is the reason why I use sites like Metacritic, and Metacritic, I think, is probably one of the most fair metrics we have out there, because remember that 8.03 out of 10 that I was talking about? Well, look at this. Us, 81 out of 100. 81%. You see that this is actually a more accurate score of how people feel. Not only that, but also in a very straightforward way, you get to see how these scores are made. You get to see their reviews. You also get to see a breakdown of how many positive versus mixed versus negative. And I think that therefore this is a much better system, at least at this point. The problem with Metacritic is that most people just don't really tend to use it. I mean, look at even just the user reviews that are coming in. 8.4. It means it's a very solid film. It means that it's a very enjoyable film for the most part. Like, obviously it's still early and a lot of people haven't seen it yet. After this weekend, this number will be a little bit more accurate. However, I do think that it's still, a system that at the end of the day is not nearly as perfect as it could be, because you're still rating it out of 10. But this is a subjective number when it really comes down to it. And also that you have some people that are going to rate it subjectively, some people might rate it objectively, etc., and there's really no in between. And that's why I've started something over at my own site. So this is, again, just a little self-promotion here. And again, this is not a finished product, and it's not a perfect product either, but I think it is still very much a thing that's worth looking into. So this is what I call Amjam. So Amjam is the current working title of this. Don't worry, there's another name. It's mine, and I'm waiting to get a little bit more information about how to build sites, about how to, to code sites, the best way forward, the most financially viable. I mean, meaning that I won't be, going broke supporting the site and supporting all the servers and everything. So most likely than not, I'm going to use a WordPress-based site because I just heard nothing but great news about it. Gary at Nerdrotic has given me a lot of advice about it. But the way that I break down the Amjam score is that it is purely from an objective standpoint. Now, some of you might say, yeah, but don't you leave out the subjective point of view then in that? Well, now, for this score, yes. You can go to any of these movies' main pages and you can give it a subjective out of 5 score. And I think that that's the reason why, or at least that's the end point of all of this, is that you're going to have an objective score and a subjective score, and then you're going to be able to see a culmination of that, and it's going to be a brand new score, a brand new way of being able to score movies. And I think it's going to be a little bit more honest, because some people, when they actually have to answer questions, and right now I have it broken down into 10, where out of 10, they have to rank the acting. Out of 10, they have to rate the directing, the editing, etc. And some people say, oh, but, average moviegoers, that's not really for them. Well, let's also keep this in mind that the end goal of this is to have people that are not just, hand-picked, approved, fancy critics, but people who are, people who love movies, people who've seen a lot of movies, who know how to look for those things, who know what editing is, who know what production design is, for example, for all these things. It's not to say that, fans are not going to have the ability to do similar scoring, but at this point in time, this is really a test run just to see what the average moviegoer thinks of these things in the comments. And almost every comment at this point now is like, it just seems too complicated. That's kind of the point. It's a lot easier for you to go on Rotten Tomatoes and give something a half star, even though they won't count it all the time. It's a lot harder to be able to open one of these up, and you're not going to be able to because I've already given my rating, but something pops up in a survey, and literally they give you 10 categories, and then you have to vote on it. So you can, again, go to my website, ombreviews.home.blog, and then I'll post this in the description of this video. But I think that it's a little bit different when you're going category by category, because then you have to be a little bit more honest, or at least theoretically, you have to be a little more honest. Now, are there ways for people to bond the system? Absolutely. They can just give straight ones, they can give straight 10s, and you can see that. These are the current OMJOM scores as of yesterday. So Star Wars Force Awakens, objectively speaking, has a 70.73. Last Jedi has a 76.66. Now people will be like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Well, keep in mind that this one had like 40 reviews. This one had maybe 10. So there was obviously a giant influx of people who were saying, oh, this guy's trying to start something new. But notice that I don't take down the score. Notice that I didn't delete them. Notice that I didn't, say review bombing, because at the end of the day, I know that people who are honest, and again, this is a test run. This is not anything official, because when we actually have this up and running like in full, what you're going to have people who are indeed pre-selected, whether they're fans, whether they're super fans, or anyone who has any knowledge of film criticism in general, meaning that they're able to look at a film and not just be able to enjoy it subjectively, but also able to kind of tear it apart and break it down into parts. Those are the people that I'm going to be looking for eventually over time, and those are going to be the people that are going to be leaving the official scores for the website. For now, any person can go on the website and leave a score, so that's why, don't take these as, as canon here. But I think that once you get to the actual live scores, you see a little bit more consistency, because, Alita Battle Angel, 78%, Aquaman, 65%, Captain Marvel, 68%. Oh, but that's just a little too high, don't you think? Well, it is also matching up almost perfectly with what the critic scores are. But also, this is a little bit more straightforward because these are people grading categories and not just giving their subjective point of view. So the whole point of this is to create an objective system, because I think that film criticism should be that way. The reason why Us is so broken is because you have all these critics that are politically motivated. I mean, if you just go into reading some of these things, and when you go into reading some of these reviews, you realize that they are rating them based on the politics of the film. Us is a serious film about the American underclass, those who toil out of sight and out of mind. Us is also a lot of fun. So notice that it's no longer about an objective standard. It's got a political message. It's got a political message in it, and therefore, that means it's good. I'm grading this high because it is something that is, again, it's getting in the political weeds here. And that's what's really sad, because you can dive through so many of these reviews and see so many people saying, oh, the political subtext, American culture, etc. It's like, okay, that is not an objective standard for rating reviews, which is why, once again, this is a broken system that you have to know how to read. But anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts about all of this? Do you think that Rotten Tomatoes is a broken system? Do you like Metacritic? Is that the site that you want to go to? Or maybe, is this something that sounds interesting to you? Obviously, again, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially with the looks, the aesthetic, and also the way the scores actually work. But those are things that I'm working on over time. But just as a new way of assisting, a new way of rating movies, to have an objective standard while also having the typical subjective standard. If you're able to separate the two and then combine them together, you get a more accurate score. Now, of course, you need people that are going to be knowing that, saying, okay, I need to try and get my own head out of it, my own subjective thoughts out of it, and grade this score honestly for the objective part. And then subjectively, they can be like, oh, well, I hated the movie, so I can get a 1 star, a half star, and it'll count in that way. So anyway, that's just my own thoughts on this. Anyway, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, smash that like button, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.